cross this evening.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it going to attack Osaka, or are you guys going to be spared this time?
Yesterday I was watching weather forecast. It said it will attack Tokyo this time.
Uh-huh. That's interesting. Okay. So it's going to be going slightly west of Osaka then?
I'm not sure if it comes here or not, but it's
Okay.
very, very big typhoon.
Really? Do you know if it's category 5, category 3, category one of those?
Which is better?
A category 5 is the strongest type. So,
Maybe
or
4 or 5.
maybe 4 or 5, yeah, it seems like that.
Recently India was attacked by typhoon, very, very big, right?
Yeah, Eastern India got attacked by a typhoon. I think what happened was like the casualties would have been a lot higher, but
Yeah.
they were able to evacuate like 800,000 people out of the worst affected areas. So it was good planning on their part this time. Actually, probably saved a lot of lives.
How about to your country, Bangladesh? Have
Yeah,
you ever attacked? No?
Oh yeah, Bangladesh has had massive cyclones before, massive typhoons. In 1970, we had a major typhoon that killed maybe 500,000 people.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was massive. No one knows how many people died, and
Mm.
that was during the time that Bangladesh was actually still part of Pakistan. So
Mm.
one of the major causes of the Bangladeshi like War of Independence in
Mm.
1971 was dissatisfaction with the government for dealing with that cyclone. You can
Mm.
actually read about this. It's called the 1970
Mm.
Bhola cyclone. So the
Mm.
Bhola cyclone was ridiculously destructive, and Pakistani government didn't really do anything to save
Mm.
the people, to help the people. So the people of East Pakistan, which was Bangladesh,
Mm.
they became very angry, and they decided to. I mean, that was one of the factors that led to so much dissatisfaction with the government.
Mm.
So, and then recently we had Cyclone Sidr, SIDR,
Yeah.
and SIDR was something that devastated southwestern Bangladesh, I think in 2009, 2010, something like that. So,
Oh.
yeah, it was a very, very, very difficult
Yeah.
cyclone
Very
for a lot of
strong.
people. Yeah, extremely strong.
Mm. We have a lot of typhoon every year, but damage is not so big. But people die sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Landslide
no.
or something.
The thing is, like, I mean, with Bangladesh, like the problem, and in some of these areas, like in India, the problem really boils down to, I mean, in the 1970s and such, it was just lack
Mm.
of warning. People didn't get advanced warning that storms like this were happening, and then in
Mm.
the aftermath, there's very little proactive. There's not like a very organized effort to get relief. I think they're
Mm.
getting better at this. The countries are getting better at it, but like it takes time. So the army and like the navy, the resources that the government deploys to
Mm.
deal with these disasters needs to be efficient, needs to be, um, dispatched. They need to be, deployed and
Mm.
dispatched in a very orderly manner. And that doesn't always happen with the case of poor countries like
Mm.
Bangladesh. So many fatalities could be avoided if you can get the help there earlier. Uh,
Mm.
but that doesn't necessarily happen. So
You said Bangladesh was a part of India before.
Bangladesh was part of Pakistan before. Yeah.
Pakistan. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting because Bangladesh is surrounded by India, but
Mm.
because the people in Bangladesh are majority Muslim,
Mm.
Pakistan is also majority Muslim. So when the British left India in 1947, they left behind two countries. They left behind India for the
Mm.
Hindu people, and they
Mm.
left behind Pakistan for the Muslim people. But Pakistan had
Mm.
two wings. So
Mm.
Pakistan had a western wing and had an eastern wing, separated
Mm.
by 1,000 miles of India in the middle. So
What
yeah,
separated the both of country with the religion?
1,000 miles of India separated them. So you
Hmm.
had Pakistan here, you had Bangladesh or East Pakistan here, West Pakistan here, and a
Mm.
thousand miles of India in the middle. 1,000 miles of India. So I mean, India was the enemy of Pakistan at the time.
Yes,
And I
yes.
mean, It still
Always
is. I mean,
fight.
exactly.
Barbar fight.
So now, I mean, in 1971, Bangladesh, or East Pakistan, so the part that was here, much smaller, decided to become independent. There was a very bloody war. A lot of people died, and we became Bangladesh, and Pakistan stayed Pakistan. And now,
Hmm.
so we have, and then India was in the middle. India has always been in the middle of these two countries. So,
Hmm. Because your country has been independent, religion is a religion.
yeah, in 1971, I mean, it's only been like
Mm.
43 years now, 42 years.
Hindu.
No, Bangladesh's people are majority Muslim, but we have a Hindu minority. We have different religions. Well,
Mm.
it's a secular government, so we don't have a religious government.
Mm.
Like Pakistan is an Islamic republic.
Mm.
Bangladesh it does not have a religious government. It's just
Mm.
secular. There's freedom of religion, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very difficult that place. Like Middle East and around India, it's very difficult.
The thing is, yeah, Bangladesh, we try to be different, right? We don't value religion over culture.
Mm.
Um, our cultural identity as Bengali people, like our language and our culture, are important to us. So for some people, maybe religion is important, but for the government and the population as a whole, religion is not um, that important for at least for policy, at least for the government, right? So that's why it's secular. I mean, there are really two or three secular Muslim countries in the world.
Mm.
Turkey is pretty secular. Bangladesh is secular. None of the Arab countries, um, none of the. It's really, I mean, just Turkey, Bangladesh, and maybe maybe also Indonesia.
Mm.
Indonesia. These are the three like secular Muslim countries, right?
We are Buddhist. I'm not a
Yeah,
Buddhist, but somehow I follow Buddhist.
yeah, yeah. We have a lot of Buddhists in Bangladesh, actually.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
in,
In
in, in
my
the in the
perspective,
southeast.
Buddhism is a kind of philosophy, not a religion.
Hmm.
I think so. We are not so much strong. We accept any religion.
But you guys also have a lot of Shinto, right?
Yeah, Shinto, yeah. Shinto is the basis of
Shintoism.
Japanese religion. And after Buddhism came to Japan, so we accept both.
Hmm. So Shintoism is compatible with Buddhism.
Not, no, very good relationship.
That's really good. That's really good.
Shintoism is related to the emperor.
Oh, that's right. Like the Showa dynasty,
Yeah.
the Tokugawa, right?
Mm. Many years ago, over 1,000 years ago, I guess, two god came down from the heaven. The man god had a long stick. He put his stick into the sea. He screwed. He pulled out from the edge four small body of water
Hmm.
dropped. It
Four
became
drops, huh?
Japanese archipelago. And
Yeah.
after that, the couple of gods came to Japan. They had a lot of children. It became the emperor. So emperor is
Hmm.
a god, Japanese god.
I know. It's actually very interesting. I remember I took a class on Japan very early, or I think in my second or third year of college.
Mm.
And it was a very interesting class because our teacher was extremely knowledgeable, and she was a professional storyteller. Okay,
Mm.
that's what was really awesome about this,
Mm.
because she's an American woman, but she is fluent in Japanese.
Oh. Mm.
So it was really, and I mean her Japanese is amazing. I think
Mm.
I think so. I'm looking at my notes from that class, and we learned um, Amaterasu and
Yes,
Susanoo.
yes. Yeah. Amaterasu
Yeah,
Omikam.
yeah, right. So was Amaterasu the name of that god who had the stick in
Amaterasu
the
means
water?
it's shining the world, so it's a kind of sun.
Hmm.
Hmm. Then once he was got angry because of the people's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
She hid herself inside the cave, the mountainside. He closed
Mm-hmm.
the very big rock in the inside of the cave, in entrance of cave.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't open, so the world became dark, darkness.
Wow.
Then people think about that, how we can pull her out from the cave. Then they had a party in front of the cave.
Mm-hmm.
Then she was interested in the outside. He opened a little the rock. Then that time, very powerful man. He strong power. He opened the door.
Wow.
Then the world became bright again.
That's amazing. And another book that we read was Hojoki.
Yeah, yeah.
And Hojoki is also very famous, I think, because
Yeah,
it offers wisdom, right? I think this book is about
yeah.
wisdom.
Raita is a priest of Buddhism.
Hmm. And we learned about things like Dokumbo Mawashi.
Oh, you
Uh,
learned a lot.
yeah, yeah. We learned a lot of stuff. This professor was extremely
Mm.
good professor. I mean,
Can you make
we
haiku? No, haiku. Very short, short
we've
poem.
made we tried making one haiku in the class,
Mm.
yeah. But I mean, she was so like such a good professor. It's amazing. And then
Mm.
we learned something called Ichigo Ichie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people meet other person only once a year, once a life.
exactly, right.
So
And
many times we expect that person meet many times, but always you should think about it only once.
yeah, and the fact that, one of the beautiful things about Japanese culture that I really admire is
Mm.
the insistence on just, or at least from what our teacher taught us, is the beauty of every moment, right?
Mm.
So the fact that, for example, if you go to a tea ceremony, right, the tea ceremony, every aspect, every movement in the tea ceremony
Yes, yes.
is designed with balance and harmony in mind,
Mm.
right? So every action, every step, the way that you're sitting down, even it's a difficult way to sit down, right? Because you have to sit on your, you
Yes, yes, I
have to
think
sit,
so.
you have to sit on your feet in a very interesting way with your knees, I think, in a
Mm.
special way. So everything needs to be in balance, and I think people
Mm.
dedicate maybe their lifetimes perfecting this art of the tea ceremony,
But
right?
only a part of people, not all
Not not
Japanese.
not everybody, not everybody exactly, but
Uh-huh.
some people, maybe the more traditional people, do that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And
Mm.
the art of the Japanese garden is also extremely beautiful.
Yes, yes. For example, only use the sand, small stones. Then it describes the big sea, ocean, and
Hmm.
the islands. Mm.
And also, like, are the bonsai plants very
Yes,
important in
yes.
Japanese culture as well, right?
Yeah, other teacher asked me, bonsai tree is the same as outside. Yes, yes.
That is awesome. Japanese culture is amazing, I think.
Mm.
A lot to learn, a lot of beauty in the culture.
Mm.
You know,
Now bonsai fan all over the world.
I know, right? Because they became so popular.
Mm.
And even in the U.S., like if you go to a museum, like maybe a special art museum, like the New
Mm.
York Museum of Metropolitan Art, Boston Museum of Fine Art, like there are a lot of very, very beautiful museums with
Mm.
special, exhibits on Japanese culture,
Mm.
like the samurai armor, the samurai swords, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that very interesting stuff, and
Mm.
it's very beautiful stuff. So yeah. Anyway, Heidi, let's move on. Actually, it's always great to share ideas, though. I really appreciate all the stuff we talk about. Um, hey, Fabio, how's it going?
Hi,
Hey, Fabio, how's it
hi,
going?
hello, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. And you?
Good, thanks. Fabio, where are you from?
I'm from Brazil.
You're from Brazil. right? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
São Paulo, Brazil.
Sao Paulo, that's awesome. My name is Farhan. I am from the U.S. and we also have Heidi in the class. Have you met Heidi before?
Sorry, but I'm not. I didn't understand.
No, I said have you met Heidi? Heidi is the other person in our class. Have you guys met each other before?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
fantastic. I think Heidi knows
My
everybody.
my sound my
I'm very
sound is
famous.
not very good.
I'm sorry, Fabio. Go ahead.
Heidi, yes, yes, Heidi. My
Uh-huh.
sound is not very good. I have some problems all the time with my microphone and my phone. I don't know what happens.
Oh, that's fine. We can hear you now, so we can. I think we can work with this. So, guys, before we begin, so thanks for joining class. I wanted to begin by talking about the past perfect, right? So today's class, the theme is the past perfect tense. Before we start, hey, Murad, you're here. How's it going? Hey, Murad, you there?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Nice, nice.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
see you again. Good, how are you?
Thank you. I'm pretty good, thank you.
Awesome, fantastic. So, just to get started, guys, thanks for coming. And we're going to be talking today about the past perfect tense, right? So when we talk about, I'm sorry, the past continuous tense. When we talk about the past continuous tense, we are talking about an action that happened a particular moment in the past, right? An action that was happening in the past that was taking place, right, at some point in the past. So it was something that was happening for more than just 1 second or whatever, right? It was something that was continuing to happen in the past. So the construction that we use when we talk about the past continuous is not that difficult. We say the subject, and then we have the verb to be, right? So I was for I. For you, we would say you were. He was, she was, they were, and then we were, right? So those are the 6 different combinations of the verb to be. So we have the subject, then we have the verb to be, and then we have another verb that ends in ing, right? So that's how we form the past continuous tense. So, for example, what can we use past continuous for? Past continuous is used for an action that was happening in the past, right? It was continuing to happen in the past. It didn't just last 1 second, right? So I can say, for example, I was studying last night when my phone rang, right? Or I was studying last night when my friend called me, right? So I was studying, right? So the construction, once again, the subject is I, the verb to be is conjugated as was, right? I was, because we're talking about the past tense. And then the second verb is study, and we add an ing to the end. So I was studying, right? That indicates that it wasn't something that I was doing for just 1 second. It was something that I was doing continuously, and it was happening in the past, right? So, Fabio, give me an example of another type of sentence that uses the past continuous.
Okay, let's go. They were making a cake when their parents arriving.
They were making a cake when their parents
Ar-
arrived.
Arrived, yes,
Arrived, right? Because for the case of the parents, they only arrived once, right?
yes. Okay.
So in that case, yeah, we would use arrived. Great job with that. They were making a cake when their parents arrived. Heidi, another example of the past continuous.
Past continuous.
Mm-hmm.
Past continuous. I had been cooking dinner when my husband came back.
Mm-hmm. I had been cooking. So that actually makes it past perfect continuous, right?
Past continuous.
Yeah,
Not
just yeah.
past. Okay. I was taking a lesson in Koringo. Suddenly, telephone rang.
Fantastic. I was taking a lesson on Kolingo, and suddenly the telephone rang, right? So it was something I was taking a lesson. Same idea, right? We have I, the subject, we have the verb was, because that's the verb to be, and then we have another verb that ends in ing. Murad, let me ask you to make a sentence with the past continuous, except to use the subject you.
I was playing computer games when I remembered that I had forgotten to call him.
One more time, Murad, I was unable to hear the last part. I was playing video games when?
When I remembered that I had forgotten to call him.
When he remembered that I had forgotten to call...
When I remembered.
That I had forgotten to call him. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. That's a great sentence. How would you do that with the you, though, with the subject being you instead of I? Let's just make another sentence.
Okay. You were making a delicious cake when you came across that newspaper that I had been looking for.
Fantastic. You were making a delicious cake when you ran across that newspaper that I had been looking for, right? Fantastic. Longer sentence. You guys are doing a great job forming these sentences, but you guys are also doing a really good job of focusing on the past continuous, right? So I think you guys understand the construction of the past continuous pretty well, right? The ways that we use the past continuous. So first of all, we use it to indicate that an action was taking place in the past, right? For more than just a few seconds. It was continuing to happen. That's why it's continuous, right? The other part about the past continuous is that we can use the past continuous to describe two or more actions that were happening at the same time in the past, right? So we can, if we have two past continuous verbs in a sentence, then we can say a lot, right? So I was baking a cake while my parents were talking on the phone, whatever, right? You have two examples, and now you're giving more idea. You're giving a better idea of what was happening in the past. Two or more events could be happening in the past as well, right? So, and then the fourth example, which you guys did a really good job of understanding, was that if you have the past continuous and then you combine it with something that's in the regular past tense, then you can talk about how an action happened while you were doing something, right? So, like Heidi said, actually Murad said, you were baking a cake, or you were making a cake when you saw that newspaper that I had been looking for, right? So you saw it, that was that one second, one time thing, but you were making a cake at the same time. So you're giving more of that description. What was happening, and then what happened immediately afterwards, right? So any questions on the construction aspect of the past continuous, guys? Following this formula, does that make sense?
No question.
No
questions, Heidi?
yet.
Okay, Fabio, fantastic. Let me know, Fabio. I think this might be your first time in my class, so one of the things that I really ask students to do is whenever they have questions, to ask me questions, because that's how we learn, right?
Okay.
So, Heidi, can you give me an example of a sentence in the past continuous that also uses a sentence in the past tense?
While I was attending calling lessons, my husband was doing dish.
While I was attending Kolingo lessons, my husband was doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Right? So that's two actions in the past continuous, right?
Yeah.
Could we make a sentence where we have one action in the past continuous and one action just in the normal past?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking down the street. Suddenly, I fell down. I fell down. Then I broke my arm.
I was walking down the street and suddenly I fell down and broke my arm, right? Yeah. So in that example, you actually have two examples of past, right? I fell down and broke my arm. Both of those happened only once, but what was continuing was I was walking down the street, right? Fantastic example. So I wanted to draw attention to something that we were looking at, right? We can use the words when and while as we are describing what was happening, and what was happening continuously, and then what happened suddenly, right? Or what happened one time. So you can say, for example, I was baking a cake when my phone rang. Completely fine. I was baking a cake when my phone rang. You can also say, while I was baking a cake, the phone rang, right? So while and when, right? While and when, sorry, while and when are both examples of words that we can use when we are describing continuous actions that are interrupted or that occur at the same time as a normal action in the past, right? So Murad, can you give me an example of a sentence like that where we have continuous as well as a simple past?
The money was being stolen when the police managed to come in.
The money was being stolen when the police managed to come in, right? Fantastic. So what is the continuous in that phrase, Murad?
Was being stolen.
Was being
Was being
stolen, right? Or yeah, was being stolen. Fantastic. And then what is just the normal past tense?
Managed to.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Managed to.
Manage to, right? Exactly. Manage to, and then arrive, of course. So, Fabio, can you give me another example of these sentences where we have a continuous action as well as a simple past?
Okay. I was watching TV while my sister slept.
Fantastic. I was watching TV while my sister slept, right? So that makes a lot of sense. You have one sentence in the past and you have one sentence that was in the past continuous. Even though for the case of, so this is an interesting case, right? If you say while my sister slept, it's something that is technically you're saying that your sister was sleeping for more than just a few minutes or whatever, right? It was continuing in the past. So slept is one of those examples where if you say, she slept for 8 hours or while she slept, it indicates that the action was continuing for some time, right? You can also use was sleeping. Both of them would work fine.
Okay.
You could use both of
Okay.
them. Both of them work fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to share that with you because I know English has a lot of exceptions to rules, and meaning-wise, there's no real difference between I was, watching TV while my sister slept, and I was watching TV while my sister was sleeping. So, any questions, guys, about the grammar aspect of what we looked at so far?
No question.
No questions, Heidi. What about Murad and Fabio? You guys okay?
No questions yet.
Okay,
I
fantastic.
have a question.
Go ahead, Murad.
Sometimes I think while must be used when we have two actions that are both in the continuous form.
Give us an example.
So only while is acceptable.
Uh-huh.
For example, I was doing my homework while you were watching TV.
I was doing homework while you were watching TV, right? Yeah, it works. But honestly, I don't know if saying when would be incorrect. Right? Because when we say, so the past continuous is used in clauses, but they don't really, so we can use while and when, because when we use when, we are talking about something that is maybe more one time, right? And while we use when we're talking about continuous things. So I can understand that aspect of it. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. While, guys, so what Murad is saying is actually true, right? We use while is preferable when we are talking about actions that are in the past, continuous, and when is more like that one-time event, right? So I was making dinner when my phone rang, right? While I was making dinner, the phone rang, right, or whatever. And you can also think, for example, I was making dinner while my children were playing in the living room, right? Whatever the case may be. So yeah, I do agree with that. I think from the grammar sense, that's absolutely correct. But in terms of the meaning, there might not be a difference in meaning, but it's something that's good to know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys? Murad, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
No.
No other questions? Okay.
No.
Fantastic, guys. So let's get started with the article real quick then. Let me, real quick, just open up the link, and then I'll put it in the chat window. The one thing about today's article is we are talking about the past continuous. So I wanted to choose an article that was related to history in a very kind of profound way, right? And the article that we are looking at is talking about the discovery of weapons that were uncovered in Norway. So ancient weapons were uncovered in Norway, and scientists are trying to figure out what clues these weapons can give us in terms of the people of that time, right? What kind of, maybe their lifestyles and maybe all those other things that archaeologists usually understand from artifacts, right? So let us take a quick look. I'm going to screen share here as well. Let me know if you guys have any problems opening up the article. So let's see here. Okie dokie. So everyone sees the article?
Yeah.
You guys are okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Stone Age bow and arrows uncovered in Norway, right? So these are arrows, right? So we're looking at maybe specific. So this is the first arrow here. We're looking at a zoomed in picture. This is a more magnified picture. This is a side view, right? And I think this is a reverse view. And then we see, for example, other types of Iron Age weapons, right? So these are potentially, I actually don't know what this is. Let's view the caption. Greenish brown tunic. So this is something that someone would wear, right? And then we have examples of the designs that they used. And this is the area where they found these artifacts, right? So in Norway, very far north, I think the weather is very cold in that part of the world. And now let's look at the article. So, a melting patch of ancient snow in the mountains of Norway has revealed a bow and arrows likely used by hunters to kill reindeer as long as 5,400 years ago. They forgot the word ago. Anyway, the discovery highlights the worrying effect of climate change, said study author Martin Callanan, an archaeologist at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. It's actually a bit unnerving that they're so old and that they're coming out right now, Callanan told Live Science. It tells us that there's something changing. Callanan and his colleagues spend every summer hiking up the Trollheim and Dovre mountains a few hours south of Trondheim, Norway, to study the snow patches in the area, track snow melt, and look for archaeological artifacts. The mountains stretch 6,200 feet above sea level, and at the highest elevations, only rocks and snow prevail year-round. In 2010 and 2011, a patch of snow melted, revealing an ancient bow and several arrows that had been locked in the snow for centuries. The bow was made from a common type of elm that grows at lower altitudes along the coast. The arrows were tipped in slate and set in different types of wood. Dating revealed the Neolithic bow was about 3,800 years old, while the oldest of the arrows were 5,400 years old. Ancient Stone Age hunters probably used the bow and arrows to kill reindeer, which spend summer days at high altitudes. The mountain retreat would have allowed the animals a respite from pesky insects, while standing on snow patches would have helped the shaggy creatures keep cool, Callanan said. Those predictable habits likely made them easy prey for ancient hunters. Let's go to the second page, guys. See here, let's see if it loads. Okie doke. So we see these arrows again. No one knows exactly who left these ancient hunting instruments, but the bow and arrows have a design that's strikingly similar to those found thousands of miles away in other frigid landscapes, such as the Yukon, Callanan said. So the Yukon is a part in Canada, right? It's in northern Canada. So the scientists are saying that the design of these arrows in Norway is very similar to what we saw in the design of the arrows in the Yukon. The people of Norway, they didn't have any contact with people in the Yukon, but they have the same type of adaptation, Callanan said. Across different cultures, people have acted in the same way. So I don't know if the rest of this article is really, okay, it's not that much, so I'll just read it. Finding such well-preserved tools is rare, said E. James Dixon, an archaeologist and director at the Maxwell Museum of Anthropology at the University of New Mexico, who was not involved in the study. It's one of the rare glimpses that we have into this Neolithic period archery technology, Dixon said. However, while the finding itself is stunning, The climate change that caused such ancient snow to melt is bad for archaeology, he said. Artifacts locked in ice can be preserved for thousands of years. As soon as ice melts and it comes out, it's subject to decomposition and we lose it, Dixon told Life Science. For every artifact we find, there are probably hundreds, maybe thousands, that are lost and just destroyed forever. The bow and arrows are described in the September issue of the journal Antiquity. Right. So very interesting class, guys. What's the very interesting article, guys. What's your reaction to this article about looking at archaeology? What do you guys think? Fabio, what do you think?
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but I need to sleep. I'm very tired.
Okay, Fabio, no worries. Have a great night then.
See you the next class.
Sure thing. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So Heidi, what do you think about the article? Heidi, are you there?
I'm checking when it was made.
Uh-huh. So 3,800 years ago, I think, right? Oh, no, you're talking about the article?
Amazing. In Japan, we
Uh-huh.
sometimes found the kind of iron weapon,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not so old.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
1,000 years ago.
This is from super old.
Japanese people used a kind of stone weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So 3,000 years ago, they already made the iron weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing.
It is, right? And, I mean, Murad, what we see in this article, first of all, what's your reaction to the article? What do you think about it?
I find it a very interesting article. It deals with archaeology, and this is very good. It shows the history, how people lived before, how life was, etc., etc. And I think it's good for, yes, and I think it's good for museums to enrich museums with fossils, for example, or other things.
Yeah, right? A lot of history, right? So how do you think, so Murad, they focus a lot in this article.
I looked at this weapon. It's shining like new, not so 3,000 past. Maybe normally the steel or iron is already disappeared from the earth. Maybe they're under the ice, so ice conserved them very well.
Yeah, I think the ice really did preserve a lot of the integrity of the iron weapon was, I think, preserved by the ice because, I mean, how many thousands of years? I mean, 3,800 years, that's 380, or that's 38 centuries, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very long time. So it's something that I think, and, you know, that's what's a little scary is that it was preserved for so long and then all of a sudden it is being lost, or it was discovered because the snow is melting now.
They were frozen.
They were frozen, right? And then this ice melted because of global warming.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a very difficult situation, I think. What do you think, Heidi, they use these weapons for besides hunting? The article seems to focus on hunting, but what else could they have used these weapons for?
They're used for catching animals, right?
Yeah, but what are some other ideas? Murad, do you think these weapons were used for maybe purposes besides just hunting?
Maybe for exhibition purposes in some museums.
No, I'm talking about the people in the past who were using them.
Oh yes.
What are some other reasons they might have wanted to make arrows and bows besides just hunting?
Maybe to fight with each other.
Maybe to fight with each other, right? I think war was definitely maybe part of the culture. Maybe not a big part, but we do know that, for example, ancient cultures, you know, they did have battles, they did fight, and they did develop technology to help them in their specific, you know, the battles that they had, and they wanted to gain supremacy over one another. So these weapons could have also been part of that as well, right? I mean, Heidi, do you agree? Do you think they could be used as weapons of war as well?
Yeah, civilization became on the side of river. This is hunting. Hunting people are not made, not didn't make some group. The family or small people were moving in place to place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they used for catching animals or making their house, cutting
Mm-hmm.
trees or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible, right? So maybe swords and things like that you can use, or if you make an axe, you can use an axe to cut a tree, to bring a tree down, right? The tree will provide wood. You can make a home from that. But have any of you guys ever used a bow and arrow? Have you felt a bow and arrow, or shot a bow and arrow? Shot an arrow with a bow. Have you guys done that? Have you guys practiced archery? We call that archery in English, right? Did you guys ever try that? Like it's a sport. It's a very popular sport. It's in the Olympics. People do it.
Yes, yes, but I think I had a toy.
Oh, you had a toy, so like a toy bow and arrow.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
But a real bow and arrow. Like I had a chance to use a bow and arrow in high school or something. We had a marksmanship class, right? So we had two classes. We shot guns and we shot bows and arrows, right? Just for fun. Like it was a
But
class.
Japanese bow is much different. Bow and very
Japanese.
long. The length is like our height.
Yeah,
And
right. Bows are huge. Some of the
yes,
bows are
yes,
huge, right? But we had bows that were a lot more manageable, maybe like this big, like, well, you guys can't see, but maybe like 1 meter high. So not
like
that bad. Not that
like
bad,
one
right?
foot hat.
Yeah. There's 1 meter high is not that bad, but you need good physical strength to pull a bow and pull an arrow. You need and to be able to aim, down range and hit your target. You need
Yeah.
a good amount of strength. Like it's
So
not
concentration is very important.
concentration is important, practice is
Yeah.
important, and I think physical strength is also very important. So,
Yes.
I mean, what does that tell you guys about how these people lived? Were they like? Do you guys think they were like small people, weak people, or were they like really big guys? What do you guys think?
I think there were big guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they could. I mean, and what kinds of animals did the article say that they were killing?
Deer or
Yeah, not just any deer. Do you remember the specific type of deer they mentioned?
it's Norway, so maybe
Well,
deer or bear.
well, reindeer,
Reindeer. Yes.
right? Have you guys seen a reindeer, like a picture of a reindeer before? Let me see if I can find a couple pictures. So
Yes.
Santa Claus has reindeer,
Yes.
right? And reindeer are massive. Like a big reindeer, holy crap! Like that, if you wanna take down a reindeer, you gotta be fast. You gotta be good to take down a reindeer, right? I mean, you have to
They
probably
have
aim for.
many tusks.
They have horns. They have
Yeah.
they have very. I mean, it's a rough situation, and these guys just going up there. I don't know what they're wearing. Maybe they're wearing like they didn't have jackets. Maybe they're wearing wool or something that they kill from an animal, or get from an animal that they kill. And they go into the mountains, and they have a bow and arrow, and they're just taking out reindeer. I mean, it's crazy, right? Human technology had not evolved to make crossbows, for example. Like there's a type of bow called crossbow. And crossbows, you kind of hold like this. Like you should hold it horizontally, and you fire it like that, right? And you don't have to hold it like this to shoot it, right? It's much different. Crossbow technology didn't really come into play until the 1300s, right? Much later in the Middle Ages. France and England. France had crossbows. England had a lot of longbowmen. It's something in history, it doesn't matter. But with these kind of bows, I mean, these ancient, Norwegian people, these men, these hunters, must have been super strong, and they must have been able to just take out reindeer. I mean, You know, it's very difficult. Like, how long do you think it took these guys to make these arrows? What do you guys think? Anybody? Murad?
Well, I can't know exactly how much time it took them.
Yeah, I mean, we can just guess. I mean, you know, it probably took them some time, right? Because they had to, I mean, they had to get these, they had to build them from rocks, or they had to maybe carve rocks, right? Carve sharp objects. Heidi, I think you were saying earlier that in Japan they make arrowheads from rocks, right? Or like 1,000 years ago, that was something that was common. Heidi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I just wanted to know, you mentioned something about arrows in Japan being made from rocks before. Do you know about that process?
Yeah, before they used rocks as a weapon.
They use rocks as weapons, right? So it's a tasking it's a task that involves a significant amount of work, I think, right? You need to really be able to design that stuff, and you need to be able to make them, and then when you use the arrow, you have to retrieve the arrow, right, from the animal. You have to pick the arrow up again. It's not easy. It's not an easy task. It's not something that I think
Yeah, maybe
everybody can do.
Norway, so their skin is very thick, I guess, because of cold weather. But in Japan, it's warm, so and there are many small animals. It's
Uh-huh.
enough the stone arms.
That's interesting. And do you guys know of technology, for example? We're looking at Norway here, right? And Heidi has spoken a little bit about Japan. What are the other kinds of archaeological discoveries in your country? Do you guys know of any of those things? Like cultures in your country from a long time ago, maybe how they hunted, how they lived. Have you guys read about any of that? So like Murad in Morocco, I don't know if you guys have a rich history of archaeology. I'm sure you do. I don't see why not. But do you have any um, specific examples or stories of that
Yeah,
that you'd like
around
to share?
1,000 years ago, they made some ceramic, but not burned. It dried up under the sunlight.
Uh-huh.
Mm. So not so strong.
So but they were still able to make weapons effectively, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, in Japan, the samurai sword is just amazing, right?
Samurai sword is much different.
Yeah, exactly. It's not ancient, right?
Yeah.
But the art of making the samurai sword, folding steel.
Samurai sword are very, very beautiful.
Hmm.
Mm.
And it's a tradition. How many people are still around making samurai swords?
I don't know. There are many samurai warriors at that time.
I know, but now today, this almost
Mm.
there's no samurai left, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But I think you can still get samurai swords. I think people still make samurai swords, right?
Yeah, and there are many museums. We can see the sword. They
Hmm.
are very beautiful, shining.
Super beautiful, yeah, and so sharp. Murad? What about you? Anything you know from the history of Morocco?
Actually, we have a museum of arms,
Uh huh.
like swords, bazookas, and many other things, and I think they use them either for fighting or for hunting.
Hmm.
Yes,
And was the culture in Morocco before the Islamic invasion? I think it was mostly Roman. There was Roman influence, but there were also a lot of
Berber.
Berber, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And how did the Berber people? I mean, how did they live? Really, do we know of their? Were they hunters? Were they desert travelers, traders?
they were traveler. I
Hmm.
know somebody who is very famous, who had traveled to
Ibn
many parts of
Battuta.
the world.
Ibn Battuta.
Yes, yes. He's from Tangiers. Have you
Uh-huh.
ever heard of this city?
Yeah, I've heard of Tangiers. It's in the north, very close to Spain.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I
I know
think
Ibn Battuta.
yeah, Even Battuta.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, world traveler.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, is there a specific type of like archaeological like artifact or things that Morocco is famous for? Like, I mean, in the past, like what is like for example, they used to say that the swords of Damascus, like
Yeah.
Damascus, were the very beautiful swords, right? And they would say that the swords of the city of Toledo in Spain, Toledo and Damascus had the most beautiful swords of the ancient world. What about with Morocco? Is Morocco famous for anything like that?
We have many artisans.
Artisans, huh?
Yes. Who make beautiful things like sword, like combs
Hmm.
from tusks of elephants, for example.
Wow.
Yes, carpets.
Do you guys have elephants in Morocco?
In some zoos, yes.
In some cities? That's awesome. Are they? I'm assuming they're like African elephants, right?
Yes. We have
Nice.
camels, lions, tigers.
Everything.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Uh, Heidi, what about you? Are there any special things about Japan besides the swords that we looked at before? Or we talked about samurai swords briefly, but other things that maybe Japan is famous for archaeologically, right? So like arrowheads, every now and then in Canada and Norway or whatever, they find ancient arrowheads, right? In Mexico, they found some ancient artifacts also as well. But recently, have you guys heard of anything in Japan that was very interesting, fascinating that they found?
We have some monument. It's very similar to the Stonehenge. Stonehenge.
Hmm.
No one
What's it
knows.
called?
Yeah, they brought a very big stone.
Uh-huh.
Then they something we call it some stage, like stage. Uh, it's very difficult to explain, but a big stone monument like Stonehenge.
Hmm.
Then they studied a lot, but they don't know how it was used exactly.
Hmm. And what about the Yasukuni Shrine? Can you tell us about that, Heidi?
Yeah, Yasukuni Shrine was constructed around 100 years ago. At first, the samurai warriors changed to the emperor domination.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then at first we had a war with Russia.
Hmm.
Then Japan won, but there many people died.
Hmm.
Then they constructed Yasukuni Shrine.
As a way to like remember the people who
Yeah,
died, right?
in the shrine.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
Yasukuni Shrine is for soldiers.
Hmm.
When soldier died in some place, they said their spirit will be in the Yasukuni Shrine.
Wow. And is it's still a very popular place today, right, for tourists
Yes,
and folks like that?
yeah,
Yasukuni Jinja.
yes.
Yeah. I have read about this. It's something I covered in my class before, in my
Yeah.
Japanese culture class.
So
One.
Chinese and South Korean people always make problem about Yasukuni Shrine. But
Hmm.
not only World War II, but also many soldiers already had put in that place.
Hmm. Yeah. From I think this article that I read I think started from the Russo-Japanese War, so when Russia and Japan fought, all the way to the end of World War II. And I think one of the things that's interesting, I mean, Murad, are there any shrines or buildings like that in Morocco for maybe historically speaking people who died for Morocco or things like that?
Yes, yes, we have. Can I send you a picture?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. You can send whatever you like, my friend. No worries. Um, so, guys, we are almost at the end of class, but I wanted to ask about. So, we looked at the past continuous. We looked at archaeology, and I tried to kind of branch out to see if the archaeological idea that we were talking about could also be something that we could apply to the other topics, for example. So we were looking at the topic of, shrines and artifacts and, precious things that are important to a culture. For Japan, I get the idea that there are a lot of interesting things. Like we have swords, we have a lot of other beautiful things. And for Morocco as well, from what Murad said, we have a lot of, there's a lot of carpets, there's a lot of different kind of artisans that make different kinds of artworks and crafts and things like that. So Murad, this thing that you sent me is Burj Merinides, right? The Tower of Merinides. Could you explain this a little bit, Murad, if you don't mind?
Oh, sorry, I sent you a wrong link.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It's fine. Maybe it's a hotel, right?
The first one is a hotel.
The first one's a hotel. And then, what about this one right here? Let's take a quick look. This one is Burj Merinides. So this is maybe like a castle, right? It's a castle, maybe.
Castle and cemeteries of people who were fighting for the independence
of Morocco.
Yes.
From France, right? Or was it from Spain this time?
From France.
From France, okay. Nice, nice. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, I like these pictures. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have very little idea about Morocco. Very little idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of these things that I think as a country I haven't learned a lot about Morocco, honestly. So
I have seen many people from Asia in Morocco studying there. From the Philippines, from Thailand, from India.
Yeah, unfortunately, I want to go, but I haven't had a chance yet, so maybe we'll see.
Oh, you are welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Murad. I have another class starting right now. If you would like to join that, feel free. Otherwise, have a great rest of the night.
I look forward.
Yeah?
Unless I have dinner, I will join.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Murad. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The thing is, like, I mean, with Bangladesh, like, the problem, and in some of these areas, like in India, the problem really boils down to, I mean, in the 1970s and such, it was just lack of warning. People didn't get advanced warning that storms like this were happening. And then in the aftermath, there's very little proactive, there's not, like, a very organized effort to get relief. I think they're getting better at this. The countries are getting better at it, but like it takes time. So the army and like the navy, the resources that the government deploys to deal with these disasters needs to be efficient. Needs to be dispatched. They need to be deployed and dispatched in a very orderly manner, and that doesn't always happen with the case of poor countries like Bangladesh. So. Many fatalities could be avoided if you can get the help there earlier, but that doesn't necessarily happen. So
you said Bangladesh was a part of India before.
Bangladesh was part of Pakistan before.
Pakistan. Oh,
yeah. So it's interesting because Bangladesh is surrounded by India, but because the people in Bangladesh are majority Muslim, Pakistan is also majority Muslim. So when the British left India
across this evening.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it going to attack Osaka, or are you guys going to be spared this time?
Yesterday I was watching weather forecast. It said it will attack Tokyo this time.
That's interesting. Okay, so it's going to be going slightly west of Osaka then?
I'm not sure if it comes here or not, but it's very, very big typhoon.
Really? Do you know if it's Category 5, Category 3, Category one of those?
Which is better?
A Category 5 is the strongest type. So
maybe 4 or 5.
maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, it seems like that.
Recently India was attacked by typhoon, very, very big, right?
Yeah, Eastern India got attacked by a typhoon. I think what happened was like the casualties would have been a lot higher, but
Yeah.
they were able to evacuate like 800,000 people out of the worst affected areas. So it was good planning on their part this time. Actually, probably saved a lot of lives.
How about to your country, Bangladesh?
Yeah,
Have you ever attacked? No?
Oh yeah, Bangladesh has had massive cyclones before, massive typhoons. In 1970, we had a major typhoon that killed maybe 500,000 people.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was massive. In 1947, they left behind two countries. They left behind India for the Hindu people, and they left behind Pakistan for the Muslim people. But Pakistan had two wings. So Pakistan had a western wing and had an eastern wing, separated by 1,000 miles of India in the middle.
What separated the both of country with the religion?
1,000 miles of India separated them. So you had Pakistan here, you had Bangladesh or East Pakistan here, West Pakistan here, and 1,000 miles of India in the middle. 1,000 miles of India. So I mean, India was the enemy of Pakistan at the time.
Yes.
I mean, still
Always
is. I mean,
fight.
exactly.
Barbar fight.
So now, I mean, in 1971, Bangladesh or East Pakistan, so the part that was here, much smaller, decided to become independent. There was a very bloody war. A lot of people died, and we became Bangladesh, and Pakistan stayed Pakistan. And now, so we have, and then India was in the middle. India has always been in the middle of these two countries. So.
Because your country has been independent, reason is a religion.
Yeah, in 1971. I mean, it's only been like 43 years now, 42 years.
Hindu?
No, Bangladesh's people are majority Muslim, but we have a Hindu minority. We have different religions. It's a secular government, so we don't have a religious government. Like Pakistan is an Islamic republic. Bangladesh does not have a religious government. It's just secular. There's freedom of religion, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, that place. Like Middle East and around India, it's very difficult.
The thing is, yeah, Bangladesh, we try to be different, right? We don't value religion over culture. Our cultural identity as Bengali people, like our language and our culture, are important to us. So for some people, maybe religion is important, but for the government and the population as a whole, religion is not that important at least for policy, at least for the government, right? So that's why it's secular. I mean, there are really 2 or 3 secular Muslim countries in the world. Turkey is pretty secular. Bangladesh is secular. None of the Arab countries. No one knows how many people died, and that was during the time that Bangladesh was actually still part of Pakistan. So one of the major causes of the Bangladeshi war of independence in 1971 was dissatisfaction with the government for dealing with that cyclone. You can actually read about this. It's called the 1970 Bhola cyclone. So the Bhola cyclone was ridiculously destructive, and Pakistani government didn't really do anything to save the people, to help the people. So the people of East Pakistan, which was Bangladesh, they became very angry, and they decided to. I mean, that was one of the factors that led to so much dissatisfaction with the government. So, and then recently we had Cyclone Sidr, SIDR, and SIDR was something that devastated southwestern Bangladesh, I think in 2009, 2010, something like that. So, yeah, it was very, very, very difficult cyclone
very
for a lot
strong.
of people. Yeah, extremely strong.
We have a lot of typhoons every year, but damage is not so big. But people die sometimes.